Okay guys, just bear with me, I'm getting the last bit of this set up, so hopefully we'll have this. I've got about 6 minutes of my time until this match is set to go live. I'm going to double check the status with Raffle and the others. I'm just getting the last little bit of this overlay and all my windows set up. And this time, tonight, my mission is to actually bring you the video of every last game, so instead of, just the bottom left corner of my window. Still pissed about that. Almost there, guys. Then I can start talking about what the teams we have, and what maps they're going to be playing, when I pull up it. I was going to give Twinkie like another couple minutes while I finish this up, but he cut stream, so not big deal. Oh, somebody's already gone and done the Twitch title for me. Thank you very much. I have way too many internet windows open. Okay, 5 minutes later, I have all of my overlays set up, huzzah! Let me just get a quick read from my dearest Raffle Waffle on where they stand in terms of getting a match here. Okay guys, just bear with me, I'm getting... Oh goddammit. I do that every time! Sorry about that. Yeah, so good evening everyone, I am Cerothrax from Steel Jaguar Gaming, and co-host of the War Room. Tonight we're going to have the 228th Independent Battle Mech Regiment facing Clan Smoke Jaguar. And this will be for Run Hot or Die, and it's going to be a best of 5. This is week 3 of Run Hot or Die, and the drops are going to be 500 tons on Alpine Peaks, 1 assault, 1 heavy, 3 mediums, 3 lights on Crimson Strait, 2 all on Tourmaline Desert, 350 on HPG Manifold, and 2321 Assault to Light on Caustic Valley. Now, unlike some of the previous leagues we've done, Run Hot or Die this season is an 8v8, and so it's a bit of a smaller dynamic, and because of that, actually because the cap timers do not scale with fewer people, and we do not have the option of altering the cap timers, we are going to be playing on skirmish mode for all of these drops. This is actually good news, bit of good news I guess, is something that I've talked to Carl Berg about last night, and he understands the plight now. So, fingers crossed, we're getting some sort of option that's going to make this a bit easier. And allow us to do some different modes instead of just pure skirmish for the 8v8. Because personally, I really like the 8v8 game mode. It gives you a lot of room to work with. It puts a lot of emphasis on scouting. I'm biased because I am a light pilot, as Raffle would put it, just hashtag just light mech things, but the amount of coordination you have to put in on an 8v8, the amount of responsibility on the part of every single player, to me, it's a lot more skill intensive and team based, whereas 12s oftentimes, it did feel deathballish. And on top of that, we've seen Brawling make a resurgence with the nerf of jump jets and with the hit reg on SRMs, words fail me. But between those two changes, we've seen a lot more diverse loadouts being brought. And on top of that, now that we know what map we're going into, you can tailor the drop deck to the map. And that's another huge factor. We've even been seeing LERM-based comps, or just a single LERM boat even being thrown in. Like we saw last night on the 5th drop of SWK versus Golden Keshik on Caustic Valley. They had, I believe it was Third World in a LERM Shadowhawk, and he did 500 plus damage in AV8. That's fantastic, and honestly not something we would have seen out of top teams prior to this season. I'm just I'll move my mic here. There we go. Gonna double check my friends list, make sure they're not dropping. Good, they're not. And Raffle is replying to me. Apparently both our teams are now getting into lobby, so we should have a first match for you pretty darn quick. I hope. But give me a moment here and I will bring up I will bring up the map. And I'll even bring up the correct one at that. So for the first drop, we have Alpine Peaks, 500 tons. You can bring any combination of classes you like, as long as it is less than 500. And 500 for an 8v8 is going to be one of the heaviest ones around. And on this map, from Golden Keshik and SWK, when they played this yesterday, we saw both teams bring pretty much an all ER large laser deck. And they had just a sort of trade back and forth until a RD head strike took out one of the SWK players, forcing them to push into an entrenched position, and as we all know, that tends to end poorly. So, are we going to see both teams bring that again? I'd be safe wagering money that we're going to see at least one of these teams do it, since they have a bit of reputation for it. But 228, they can, or, well, either team, if they want, ER Large Laser isn't the be-all and end-all when it comes to Alpine. You can bring, knowing that you're dropping on it, ER PPCs instead of regular, and you're still punching quite well, out to about 1,000, 1,200. You can bring Gauss, and again, you're punching pretty good out at 900 or 1,000. At that range, ER Large Lasers, they're doing half damage. So you can still trade pretty well if your sniping is sharp, if your position is good. It's definitely easier for you if you've got high ground against the ER Large Laser comp, just the way the angles work. Now, the benefit to it is that the ER Large Lasers, like the sniper builds rather, require you to pop-tart a little, and as soon as you silhouette, they can get a burn on you, and before your gun's clear, they can back down. It's not the most effective damage, given that the range is only 675, but it, over time, stacks up. So, getting a message now, Raffle Waffle, about to go, so let's make sure... 10 seconds. Oh, I have to turn the webcam off. There we go. And we are in. Okay, so we are going to have, in blue, the 228th Independent Battle Mech Regiment. They are spawning on the high side here with easy access to the comms tower. And on the low side, we have Clan Smoke Jaguar, and they have brought... three Dragon Slayers, 3 Quick Draws, and 2 Firestarters, 1 Ember and a Firestarter FS9H. Now, just from having watched their game tape in the past, I know that those Quick Draws are going to be probably quad ER Large Lasers, and I think it's probably safe to say these Dragon Slayers aren't. Let's just have a quick look here. Yes, they are going to be PPC Gauss, probably ERs as well. Now, out of 228, we're seeing a more standard loadout of Dragon Slayers. There's a Victor 9S in here. That's interesting. Wonder if it's just because Greem doesn't have a Dragon Slayer, because it's going to be double arm mounted, and not quite as good at the pure sniping. But 4 Victors, a Cataphract, and 3 Lights, 2 Jenners, and an Ember. 228 is just bunkering up here, high side at the comms tower. The Quick Draws from CSJ are moving over here, I6, I7, right about where Theta would be if this were Conquest. Not really any sort of fire going down. 228 knows probably what sort of drop deck they can expect out of CSJ. They're moving down, trying to close the distance here. They don't want this to go to some sort of standoff, and they know from their scouting that CSJ is still acquiring their position. So this is a chance for them to move down safely. One thing I don't know, and hopefully we'll find out soon, is whether strikes have been allowed. I know in Week 1 and Week 2, when CSJ faced SIG and SWK, both teams agreed that strikes were not going to be used. So I'm unsure if 228 agreed to the same thing. Just before I forget, I'm going to hop into just Raffle Waffle's side so I can make sure that we get the end of game screen. a fun quirk about the Spectator client. If you never hop into a first-person view, then you don't get end of game. In any case, the either side, both teams, pretty much perfectly okay. El Ducarino in the Ember, down to 94%. Not sure if that's actually from getting shot at, or if it's just, you know, fall damage because lights. And actually, speaking of, the fall damage has been softened for lights, which is a good thing. But overall, 228 has moved up to the mid-ridge there. They're not fully up at I-9, no point to being there, but sort of the approach to it. And from here, they could probably safely leapfrog down to the center here, I6, I7, which would be overlooking Theta. On the other hand, CSJ has just moved their entire 8 back to fortify the buildings here at what would be Sigma on Conquest. Just from memory, I believe the positions here they're fighting at are gonna be about, gotta be a full kilometer. So there is, the damage for both teams is gonna be well into drop-off. I'm just gonna hop in and get a confirmation on that sort of range. Let's have a look at Grip's Vigil. And just as I say that, he stops firing at stuff. Thank you, Grips. Kind of notice, could you give me a rangefinder? No. What we do see from my first-person scout, though, is that CSJ is moving up the hill to I4, just sort of further up the hill where they get even more entrenched. And at the same time, 228 is going to move down, take I6, I7. Now, the thing here, though, here we see that, actually, looking at these loadouts, the Giant Slayers are 2-ER PPC and an AC5. I'm wondering if this is throughout all of theirs. No. Grip's Vigil is running a Gauss Rifle with those 2 ERs. There was in light. Okay, so CSJ has managed to fall back to a position up here that is going to be the high ground, and so they've got the terrain advantage here. As you see from the sniping going down, it's going to be a lot harder for 228 to peek. That being said, the range is 1,000 meters, pretty much on the button. So 675 meters on these ER large. I'm surprised they didn't take weapon modules, actually, because that would have buffed the range, oh, probably up to 700. It would be worth it. It would be worth the heat on this map. You've got the cooling bonus, and you're not going to be getting into an extended engagement. CSJ is slowly rotating around left to H4, just getting angles, making sure the cover on the hill doesn't work. 228, seeing this, is falling back. 228 is definitely behind on the trade, looking at these percentages here. That being said, it's going to be spread around quite a bit. Lasers are not going to be focused on one component, especially not at that range. There is no excuse for you not to be twisting every which way and spreading it all over. But given their initial hesitancy, their initial form-up at the comms tower here, and their move down here, there were times where they were waiting for about 30 seconds, and even that little bit of time allowed CSJ to regroup and sort of move this into the terrain that they favor. Now CSJ is continuing to move and continuing to rotate, trying to keep the pressure on. So they're not doing the full camp, but they are doing a pretty loose engage, not really looking for a direct fight, kitey style. So if 228 can pull some cute maneuvers without getting scouted, and CSJ, like right here, they're coming down towards where Epsilon would be, and if 228 were to be on the right side of the screen on the side of the hill where they're not scouted and then just charge over, that would close the distance to about 700, at which point they'd be perfectly in their prime and hopefully have everybody in the fight. One thing I'm surprised about, actually in retrospect, looking at these loadouts, is that the Ember and the Firestarter for CSJ are actually not just, you know, spiders. And because then they'd have ECM and even more large lasers, but apparently they wanted Sunbrawl in it. 228 is continuing just to fade away, seeing if they can bait CSJ in. If you look, Leo here in the quick draws, about probably 350, 400 ahead of the rest of them. So it is possible something will be run down here. Now just looking at this though, quick draws, I want to see how fast those are rolling. because they can get pretty quick. Choice of words, probably poor. 89.1, and if we're going to hop over, it's Shredhead in the Cataphract 3D. Come on. Okay, fine, he's not moving. Okay. My point was going to be that the 228 mechs are going to be slower, so if it continued... I'm sorry, camera control issues. But if it continued into just a full pursuit, those quick draws were going to be able to run down the team and keep pressure up on the rear elements of 228. Now, 228 is definitely on the back foot of the tray here. Shredhead in that Cataphract is down to 73%. Panic Button in the Dragon Slayer is down to 65%. They're not trading well. Greem is down to 84%. This is just a factor of the ER large lasers. Just they may not get the best damage, but as long as you have line of sight and decent aim, you're gonna get some out. Whereas the PPCs, you gotta make those shots count. And at 1,000 meters with the lead time, it's hard. But now 228 has recognized that CSJ has gotten in close to them. This was what I'm talking about CSJ over pursuing. And so they're rushing to try and catch something out here. And Sakan Xiaokai Fury and this quick draw is going to be the closest thing. He doesn't have a lot of cover near him. He is getting... These angles are being worked on him, and if they can bring him down, if they can bring Xiaokai Fury down, or any of these other guys, Leo, just some good shots here, then they would be able to force the engagement, force CSJ to come at them on their terms. Right now, that sort of momentum has played out a little bit. They are trying to look for an angle. 228 is continuing to redeploy. CSJ isn't really running away yet. Aldacarino is trying to just get up on top, get a bit of eyesight, some scouting movement in on where the rest of the team, or CSJ team, is going. But with those shots, that little turnabout and engage, I'd say 228 isn't back fully in control of the game, but it's at least not running away from them like it was during that pursuit. 228 fast on the draw, taking down the UAV from Dario 3 and the Ember for CSJ, so that'll conceal their movement slightly. CSJ is, now that they've regrouped, they're rotating around. Greem in this Victor, he's getting caught off the back a little. Takes a few hits. Just gonna, while we have the moment here, take a quick first-person view and try and figure out how damaged everything is, if it's crit, if it's lost weapons. Oh, that hurts. Titanosis, even though he's 86% in a Jenner, those lasers, they are all to his center torso. He's open internals, so I wonder if he pooked a little and just got blasted. Same deal, Shredhead here. Apparently he wasn't shielding a lot. He's running 2 PCs, 2 Ultras. That's not the greatest range loadout, but his CT is basically the only thing that's taking damage here. Defunct has done a better job rolling damage. He's down 64%. His left torsos are at about half armor, and the rest of him is open. But let's forget this armor readout, because the teams have closed down to about 400. Yurid Howl and Dario 3 and the Embers are getting on top of the hill, on this hill, getting ready to look and perhaps drop in behind, while the rest of CSJ is coming in and working up. Now, the thing here is that 228 has the right-hand rotation here. They can work with jump sniping or even corner peek in this right side of the hill much harder than CSJ is going to be able to. Now, the risk is that against fighting Clan ER large lasers, you cannot afford to jump one at a time. And that's kind of what we're seeing 228 doing here. Raffle Waffle just took a jump to try and get a shot off, and in return he got shot, lit up by 4 or 5 of the ER large laser guys. You have to be really, really cohesive coming around these corners. And 228 isn't able to do that. Shredhead gets caught off on the rotation. Raffle Waffle's getting caught out as well, dropping quickly. Shredhead is dead. Raffle Waffle is dead, and the rest of the 228 team is not looking much better. The only healthy one is Aldacarino in the light. I don't remember what. This is gonna be too little too late with the lights coming in behind, because Defunct and Greem are just out of the fight right now. 4 mechs left for 228th, and all 8 of CSJ are up. They played this kite style pretty well. Leo down to 50% is legged, and the only one who's really at risk of dying. But with Edmeister being the only light who committed in at the end there, the entire CSJ team was just free to focus him out. Now it is just Defunct, and actually, where's El Ducarino at, even? Oh, he's running off on the side here, not even committing in, so... I feel like there were moments in that fight that 228th had the opportunity to turn it into just a crush and push, especially when they reversed here, but there were times where it felt like they balked at, like, pushing in. But the issue was that if you're not going to seize that opportunity to push, to get that first kill when those quick draws are out of position, and keep rolling through, you're just going to slowly end up in a worse and worse position. That's sort of the strength of this Kite ER Large Laser deck, is it chips away at you. And so it's going to chip, and it's going to chip, and it's going to chip, and you're never going to catch it unless they make a mistake. But when they make that mistake, you have to punish them. So, I mean, if we look at this, the entire, well, apart from the lights, the heavies and assaults from CSJ had a pretty good damage spread. Oh, I didn't close this. Whereas 228th was struggling to get their damage into play. Shredhead and the Cataract 3D, 2 PPCs, 2 Ultras. He just doesn't have the range. He's top at like the 1,000 meters where those fights were happening. He literally does 0 damage. Same thing out of these Victors. Raffle Waffle, Gream, like they put up some damage, 150, but that's not going to cut it. Edmeister, who dove in at the end, was the only light who got some respectable damage out, 185. Titanosis in the Jenner, 22. His CT was cored before he even got a chance to shoot, so that's another thing that we're seeing a lot against teams playing ER Large Laser deck. Their lights get over-aggressive, not cautious enough on the scouting. They peak at times where, and places where the entire ER Large team can just focus them. And they eat shots to the CT, they eat shots to the legs, and by the time they can actually go in and do their job, they're half dead. So, I think I'm not going to draw that on the map because it's going to be a lot of squiggles going everywhere. The main point of it was that the initial half of it stayed... Let's put the stuff back up. There we go. Good enough. The main thing was that 228th probably hesitated a little in moving out at the start. That gave CSJ about an extra 45 seconds to a minute to rotate where they wanted to, high up on those hills. And from there, 228th didn't have a great attack angle, so they started running away. CSJ pursued. 228th did a good job getting around the corner, where if CSJ pursued directly, they would only be at about 700 meters. And as soon as they did, 228th pushed out. They got one of the quick draws down to about, I think it was about 70%, but they couldn't finish it. And I feel like they had to commit just a little harder, get that mech down, then you can afford to stop the push. But you have to seize that advantage when it's given to you. Other than that, I don't think there's a lot to say about the last drop. Or a lot more to say about it. I think it was covered pretty much during the match. Let's have a quick look at what chat is saying. Okay, I don't understand some of the things chat is going on about, but okay. Okay. My throat is actually just completely dying after work, so I'm gonna go grab a glass of water. I'll be right back, and then we can look forward to the next match. And hopefully they don't drop very quickly. Be right back. Okay. Just touching base with Raffle to see when the next map is coming. Okay, so up next we have Crimson Strait. It's going to be 1 Assault, 1 Heavy, 3 Mediums, 3 Lights. So as far as the class-based ones go, this is pretty much one of the lightest. Thinking back to the last one, there are options, namely the island, if you want to do a more patient campy style. But there are also many ways to break that. We actually saw in last week's RHOD match for CSJ, CSJ tried to take the island. I should totally bring up the map so you can see what I'm talking about. Just Siri being a bad caster.
User in your channel timed out.
Ta-da. There we go. Which TeamSpeak do I have to mute? That one. Cool. Okay, so the point that I was talking about is the infamous island. And the reason why it's so campy is because you have this beautiful water position that anybody coming after you has to cross the open. The thing about that is, unlike last match, where you could get easily 1,000-meter sightlines, this is at probably about 750 once you actually enter the water, so it's not that bad. And what we saw out of the SWK game against CSJ, CSJ took the water here. It was, I think, the middle/heavy class-based deck. And SWK pushed from B2, they stayed in C2, then they crossed over and onto the island. What that did is it cut the angle again, and then pushed in and turned it into pretty much a full-out brawl. And that was the game that they actually managed to take off CSJ. So this position isn't unassailable. You can do it from other directions as well. There's this mountain here that you can use to cut the angle as you approach. And not so much from the south. There's a small one here, but that you can use going either way, but personally that's probably one of the poorer approaches. In my opinion, SWK took the strong one from B2 to C2. But on the other side of the map, this is actually going to be a spawn-based one. I'm not sure which side 228 has, which side CSJ has, so 228 may very well be spawning on island side, and that's not going to be an option in the first place. Now, whether CSJ runs there later, maybe, if 228 abandons it, who knows. But from the other side, there are too many buildings. The best you can pull is going to be up here, maybe along B7, and that's still, you've got the building complex here you can approach through, and the difference is that you're up against the wall here. Unlike Island, where you do have room to fall back. So your back's pretty much, you got nowhere to run. So other than that, the most common plays in Skirmish are focused around this B3 hill. And this, oh damn it. And this edge of the mountain. That leads to a slight circle game leading down along just around the edge of this. You can turn into a circle fight pretty fast in here, and actually all of these buildings in this area, there are multiple points where a circle game can be established, depending on team movement. And with mediums and lights, it can be a quick, quite a quick fight. One thing I think would actually be hilarious to see is an awesome. We have not seen an awesome in play. Neither SWK, nor Colden Kashik, nor 228, nor Sig last night used an awesome, despite the somewhat substantial quirks that it received. So I'm still looking forward to the debut of that after the latest patch. But the reason I bring it up is because the awesome is capable of moving faster than your average assault, and would do a decent job keeping up in this lighter drop, and would, with mass laser spam, be pretty good at ripping off the legs of mediums. That being said, though, there are a couple locations on this map, especially in this area I marked around B3, and I'm going to clear canvas here. I'm going to double check they're not in drop. Looks good, okay. There are a couple areas here that jump jets make quite a difference, and that's going to be along the shoreline here by Epsi. Is very hard. It's very hard to get out of the water without jump jets. There's a sheer face there. There's the access up onto this corner of the platform. You can jump jet up that instead of going up the ramp here, but without jump jets, no bueno. To a lesser degree, the same thing on the other side here, but that side, the ramp is pretty much okay anyways. And here in the lake, actually, if you don't have jump jets and you try to do a rotation into B3, B4, coming in from the low side, you only have an option to choke through here, or to choke through here. And so that, like that high ground here just in the city overlooking the lake, no jump jets, hard to assault. Other than that, even just moving around, potentially over, not so much over after the jump jet nerfs, but it's something you can do. All of these buildings, basically, every single position throughout this entire city, potential use for jump jets, but what sort of styles are we going to see? Brawling, possible, but brawling on skirmish on a map like this, which is big enough that you can get kited, probably not, I'd say. Sniping, always decent. ER large, could work. It's going to be tougher to work on this because the buildings are going to cut up your lines of fire and the amount of time on target that you have, quite a bit. And Lerm boats, I would classify as highly, highly unlikely, given just how many buildings there are, the abundance of cover on the map. So one thing for sure, just watching that last drop, is strikes are banned. 228, like SWK and SIG before them, have agreed to ban strikes at probably Smokejag's request. So it's going to be a bit easier without them to play an entrenched style. That's one thing with strikes. If you are camping, or rather with camping, if there are strikes in the game, you can get worn down pretty quickly, and if you're too immobile and kinda unlucky, you can get headshot. And I hear getting headshot is pretty rage-inducing. There may be some YouTube videos that turn this into a thing. So, last thing to comment on is that this area down here, this set of buildings, is kind of poor on this map, just because of how this map is designed. It cuts out this quarter of the map here. By cutting that quarter out, you make this quarter unimportant. And so for the vast majority of games, really, the map might as well be a rectangle like that. And to me, this is, I don't like this map design, taking out that bottom corner, and on top of that, putting just a massive obstruction in this mountain, in the center of the map. It cuts up the flow of the map so poorly. I mean, yeah, you have the tunnel through here, but tunnels are choke points. Tunnels are like death traps. If you're seen going into it, then it's easy to set up a firing line on the other side, and if you get caught out inside of it for whatever reason, you're gonna have a bad time. Yeah, that's series commentary on that. So, got word from Raffle Waffle that the next drop is almost ready. Let me fix my overlays. Hello again. And so, what else have we got to go over? History of the teams. I went over 228's history a little bit yesterday. In fact, actually, now I think about it, I never even got into SIG's history because we got straight into a match, but got a little bit of time now. Let's do 228 again, then we can do Clan Smoke Jaguar when I have time next. 228.br, about 10 months old, founded by Dadfire, and mix from casual all the way up to competitive. Made quite a bit of a name for themselves lately, definitely deserve to be in the Premier League. Still vying for recognition as one of the top, but against pretty much anybody else out there, no contest. Okay. And we have a match, so let's get into that. We'll do CSJ after. Yes, I'm such a noob at OBS that I don't have a second scene set up. All I'm doing is disabling sources. So good. Okay. I don't have control of the camera yet, but we can already see that for CSJ, Grips Vigil isn't a Dragon Slayer. Running what looks like dual AC5. So, what the shit? Did I get my drop decks backwards? I got my drop decks backwards, didn't I? Yes, clearly I did. I lied. When I said that this was going to be the lighter one, God knows why, we changed the order of the classes. It used to be Assault, Heavy, Medium, Light, when you were calling, like, say, 2222, or rather, more to the point, 1133. But this is 1133 Light, Medium, Heavy Assault, so 3 Assaults, 3 Heavies. This is the heaviest class-based loadout. And CSJ has the island. With 3 Dragon Slayers, a Cataphract, 2 quick draws, a Shadowhawk and an Ember. 228th in blue has spawned on the north or east side. Gangster. And they have brought Miseries. They have 3 Miseries, 3 Jagermechs, a Shadowhawk, and a Jenner. Now, the question to me, it's not really a question, but it's just confirmation here, is, yep, those Jagermechs are Gauss. And that Jagermech is Gauss. This Shadowhawk. Shadowhawk is 3 large lasers, I think. Ballsy. So, that leaves the question of what's on the Miseries. CSJ is actually... Actually, I'm trying to understand their movement here. They're just chillaxing in the water right now. But, as we speak, getting aside from that, 228 is rotating sort of towards Theta, sort of through B3 with the entirety of their team. I'm actually really curious what they're running on those Miseries, so let's go have a look. Here's one, defunct. It is 2 ER PPCs and a Gauss. Huh. So overall, what we're going to be seeing here is a moderate ER large laser deck with the 2 quick draws against a very Gauss heavy deck. You got 3 dual Gauss in the Jagermechs, and you've got 3 Gauss 2 ER PPCs out of those Miseries. Now the thing here is that if this turns into a brawl, I actually have to give this sort of drop deck war to CSJ, because those Dragon Slayers are going to be a bit more mobile, they're going to be more heat efficient for sure. So, a bit of a turn of the tables. 228 are the ones who are going to be better at sniping and better at a long game. Now, the thing here is that CSJ on the island there, they have their sightlines, their entire team is going to be hitting whomever peaks. And Raffle Waffle already down the 84%. Could be bad, it's an XL engine, so if that's a side opened up, and his right torso is hurting a bit, but it's not completely dead, then those Jagermechs are kind of fragile. But if you're looking at this position for 228, half their guys at any one time, or more, are stuck behind the buildings. They don't have the angles, and CSJ, they're the ones being aggressive. They're rotating around here, trying to work the angles, trying to pick off one guy at a time with their entire team putting out fire and just running it cool. And 228 is recognizing that they don't have a good trade location from these buildings, so they're going to slide a bit deeper here. Confirming just from that laser fire that Pandy is going to be triple ER large. But if we're looking at the numbers here, trade is once again in favor of CSJ. They have put down fire onto Ring Wraith. Ring Wraith is a quick draw down to 77%. Their fire could be a little bit better, because it is Gauss, so it could be a bit more pinpoint. They need to find a location. The Jagermech, it's best when it's peeking over a hill. It has the highest mounted ballistics in the game. The Cataphract has the honor of the highest mounted energy weapons, but Jagermech, no jump jets. If you're left-right mounted, so you can't corner peek really either, you gotta find somewhere that you're shooting down or shooting over a ridge at people. And that's not what they have. And Raffle Waffle, his right torso, he tries corner peeking out right on this building, and he gets sniped by all of these Dragon Slayers. He's down. That's his XL blown off. And now 228 is... Like, their Miseries are back here over by the B3 hill. They're not in the fight. And this movement has to shape up quick. They have to find some sort of angle where they're all engaged and not taking bad trades. So I'm just going to slide over here back behind the CSJ position, trying to give you a bit of a panoramic view. Not really panoramic, but action cam view. And just watch these fields of fire in between the CSJ team here being clumped up, going out against the 228th team, and the return shots that they have. Now, if strikes were in this, the sort of tightly clumped movement that CSJ was doing would be a little risky. If a good strike was dropped in their path and they didn't successfully get around it, then that could be a heavy damage on the entirety of their team. But without strikes in this, their preferred modus operandi is perfectly okay. That's not to say they've gotten out of this unscathed. Xiaokai Fury and the Dragon Slayer, he is down to 72%. Ring Wraith in the quick draw down to 70%. And the rest of 228 is doing a good job trading right now. Now that the ranges have backed off a little, now that they've all got into positions where they can peek and get angles. It's not the most heated of trades, but they are, I think, at least clawing their way a little bit back into this. Now, if CSJ wanted at this point, they're up a kill. They could just disengage, back off, go hide somewhere like the tunnel, and make it just terribly hard to engage them. So, is it a mistake that they're sitting back? Possibly. But saying that, they recognize that sitting back they were losing the trade, and they've decided to get aggressive, actually more aggressive, and push up closer again to the position where they actually took Raffle Waffle out. But 228 is spread a bit better. Alducarino's over here on the right. He's putting his Gauss shots out. Greem is over here on the left. 228 is kind of hitting their form and seesawing better. That being said, Edmeister in the Misery is down to 63%, so it's not all going their way. I'm just going to take a quick look here at Edmeister. I'm wondering if his Gauss blew up. Oh no, Ed is down to 63%, but he is almost perfectly functional. That was his right side, that was his shield side, and just proving once again that Stalkers are some of the best asymmetrical tanks in the game. This is a bit risky in the Stalker with this loadout, because the Gauss rifle in your left torso, if it gets crit, bam, that's all your weapons gone. And he has taken some hits to his left arm. That's risk of taking out his ERPPCs. So I'm going to zoom back over here, top-down view. Just continue to watch this weapon fire. Elducarino, Titanosis, still pretty fresh. Elducarino is one of the Yagmeks. Titanosis is their light. With this sort of death ball and the distances that you need to cross, though, a light's going to have a hard time contributing to this fight. CSJ now once again. Ooh, Xiaokai Fury is caught out pretty damn hard over here on the side. He's dropping to 56%, and the rest of his team, they're dropping back into safety. So Greem and Ducarino, if they get a bit aggressive on the right here, they can put some good shots down onto Xiaokai here. Let's have a look at this. Xiaokai is... It's his left torso. His left torso. It's going to be an XL, and he's a shot away from death. That is... They got 5 minutes on the clock. I haven't actually been making that a factor, but it is. 5 minutes on the clock, and there are some kills here that are ripe for the taking. CT here on the quick draw is 2 shots from death. Right torso on this quick draw is like a shot and a bit. 228 is going. It's come to the point where they need to form up and close this down. Otherwise, CSJ can just kite away for the win. But I don't think the correct option is actually going through the water. I guess you could, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard if you take Island and they're already entrenched over here in the buildings. Actually, now that I say that, I'm like looking at these positions. Not quite enough. There's not really enough of a hill here for a Jägermech or a Stalker to be peeking over. If it was going the other way, like this hill right here, shooting out that way, that's like you put a Jägermech up there, you're barely peeking. So that would be pretty awesome to hold. So 228th, they know there is just 4 minutes left on the clock. They aren't doing an island push. They're sliding down here underneath the docks, trying to close it down. We saw on the map earlier... Oh, God damn it. We saw on the map earlier that there isn't really... Once you get into this corner, it is the kind of caught out side on the map. So they have their back against the wall here. If 228th can move in quickly enough without losing too much more armor and health, then they have a chance at shoving the entire CSJ team, just drive them into the ocean and slaughter them all. But time's ticking. They gotta execute well and without taking too much more damage. Edmeister's a little exposed in the water. Range is high enough that he is not taking too much fire. I don't really have much to say here. CSJ's committing just all the way back here. Don't even... They were spread out a little here to start with. Not so much now. 2 minutes 50 on the clock. That is definitely enough time for the Miseries to make it there. They're only going about 63, but they need their Yagmix to catch up. And according to the chat here, MechB Kotar in a Dragon Slayer has lost his jump jets, even though he's at 81%. Okay. Now we're getting into this final death push, but Eldar Carino and Titanosis are lagging behind here. I don't know if Eldar... No, he's active. Entire 228th team trying to work the left side of this building, trying to get some damage out. CSJ spreading out deep, getting their fire. Hard to tell... actually, on the face of it, CSJ is winning this trade, just judging from the damage percent. 228 needs to commit. Defunct's getting ahead. Panic's trying to work the right side. You need to all pick one side, get in there. You can't... Where are they going? Minute 40 on the clock. I guess they have time for a bit of a rotation here. But where are you guys going? 228th. CSJ is running to the right. You can't keep poking left. At least not from back here. They're not going to give you shots. Oh, Dario. Dario 3 in the Ember is getting... He's getting a bit far over here. Not really too risky. Minute 5 on the clock. Actually, just wondering... No, CSJ isn't fast enough to just run to the water and end this. 228th continuing to try and peek the left, but if you look here, all 5... Yes, I can count, that's 5. Of the CSJ just covering this right side corner. 43 seconds. If 228th pushes straight down this alley here, they'll have decent cover. CSJ is rotating to the right, trying to get shots. I'm gonna go first person view just for this... holy shit, how did I miss this? CSJ is crumbling. They're down 4. This is... I missed it because the letters go away. It is 4-3 in favor of 228th, and on percentages, they're doing pretty damn well. 5-3 in favor, 228th is pulling this back, Titanosis is still up, he's peeking around, 2 mechs left, Leon, Theseus, Neverson, wow, I just zoned out so hard. Leo's out here in the water, Theseus, and maybe 3, 2, 1, and that's game. Wow, I apologize. I completely zoned out at the end there, just looking at my free flying cam, and I didn't catch 2 of them dying. So that's what we saw. That's what I was commenting on earlier, was that with your back against the wall there, you're at risk of being just pinned down and slowly worked over. And Titanosis, 58 damage. Surprised that's not a little bit higher given the gameplay at the end, but he did okay getting in there. He did better than... Ooh, that Ember died. Dario 3, 22 damage in the Ember, and at the end, I guess he tried to commit in behind. Goss probably just to the face. On the other side, the Miseries did a great job. Edmeister, 573 damage. Panic Defunct, 446, 269. Pandy in the Shadowhawk, that's the ER Large Laser Shadowhawk, he actually cleaned up 3 of the kills. And what that would have been was just these Stalkers, these Yagurmeks, they blow big gaping holes into the armor with that 30-point pinpoint with that, it's actually a 35-point pinpoint on the Misery. And he just walks in there, triple large laser, and goes, yep, clean up. That's an XL snipe. Bam, that's an XL snipe. Easy peasy. So, good job 228 pulling that back out, despite the early loss. Possibly a strategic error on CSJ's part, staying engaged as long as they did. But that was a 15-minute match that the team stayed fully engaged the entire time. And the ebb and flow of that went back and forth. Let's put the webcam and the score and the window capture. Not the window capture. There we go. That match went back and forth in terms of who was ahead. I think by my reckoning about 3 or 4 times. No, 2 or 3 times. CSJ coming ahead with Raffle dying when they were falling back into the water. The Miseries, the better 2-8 spread, turning it back around. CSJ pushing up again, getting some good shots out, stripping the, well, I guess the shield side off Ed, but a couple other good shots. And then Zelkai Fury getting caught out in the water, separated from his team. He lost quite a bit of armor and health, was put 1 shot away from death, and he probably got cleaned up quite easily near the end. Then that point, CSJ they still had the advantage, but where they retreated back to was somewhere they could not escape from. And 228 came in and finished it off just in time. That was perhaps not the, like, it was very active, and it's not like, oh my god, everything's dying at once, just all-out brawl, but from a strategic perspective, it was, I might be weird, but it was fun to watch, for me. Let me update the score here. And I'll do a quick review of the movements on that. Quality drawing. Okay, so CSJ, they did spawn on island side, quickly took it, and 228 spawned east side, and they moved over. Their intent was to seize the B3 area. The thing I disliked about 228's movement at the start was that their Miseries actually moved through this line here, just kind of one at a time. And one, that gave away their drop deck choice for what really doesn't amount to a lot of shots. And 2, they kind of crossed one at a time, allowing, even though it's low damage shots, just shots to be taken on them by the entire team into those Miseries. Not the biggest factor, but it's something you can, like, easily take 15 seconds, go out of your way, go slightly deeper if you want to keep exactly what you have a secret, and your opponents kept guessing, just maybe another minute longer until you actually get up into position. Just small details to work on. Now, what ended up happening was CSJ, instead of just being fully on the island, they moved into the water slightly. And 228th was still trying to establish just a good concave, a good spread through all of these buildings, through all of B3. And they actually got a little stuck with several of their guys behind this big building and this one here, and they were too close to peek out. And they weren't getting shots. But at the same time, you had guys trying to be aggressive over in B1, B2, and you get 2 or 3 guys fighting the entire 8. It doesn't matter that you have cover if 8 guys are shooting you whenever you peek. That's not a winning trade. At that point, Raffle Waffle got taken out in the Agamek. His right torso was sniped clean off. As I was commenting during the drop, this is corner peeking. A Yagurmek is not built for corner peeking, it's built for hill humping. And so every time he stepped out to the right of that building, his right torso was getting pummeled. XL's in a Jaeger, kinda fragile, goes down. CSJ has the advantage. And what the movement that enabled CSJ to do that was, instead of sitting back here, or from where they were initially in the water, they slid up through C2 to get closer to C1. What that did was, all the guys on the right side here who were getting shots, guys on the right side who were getting shots, now their angle is cut off. They don't really have shots through this section, whereas the entire CSJ team has the shots they need on the guys peeking in here. And that's how they went up. At that point, CSJ, they got the kill, don't need to keep pursuing. They felt comfortable, they fell back into their water position. Now, 228th, despite losing Raffle early, they realized, well, you can't frickin' peek one at a time. And they established good firing lines all the way along this arc. And they had some guys on high ground, and what it essentially meant was they could seesaw the attention instead of just getting focused out, and they pulled some of the trades back. CSJ moved up again. Got a bit of trades, evened it out, fell back. In the process of falling back, Zelkai gets stuck out in C1, while the rest of his team is already behind the building, or the ridge here. And he takes a lot of damage before he can finally escape down D1. He doesn't die. If he had died, that would have been pretty good for 228th, but at that point, CSJ would probably have started playing for a draw. Whereas, I guess they were playing for a win, I guess, but it was the same sort of style you'd see from draw, so I don't know where I'm going with that. But anyways, CSJ, knowing that their advantage is probably gone, they fall back, but when they fall back, it's to here in F1. You have no escape routes. You're gonna be closed down. Easy peasy. 4 or 5 minutes on the clock. They have enough time to push it down here. Bit of hesitancy in here, but they eventually start winning the trade and wipe CSJ out, down to 2 men left. Not down to the last man, but 2 men left. There isn't really enough space here, if CSJ had wanted to, for them to escape up here. 228th was already close enough that they would have had the shots. What they could have done instead, maybe, CSJ that is, maybe they run set up here and then keep running through the pass. That gives you options instead of just getting into this dead zone here. But we shall never know. So let's have a look at the next game coming up. Well, I check my social menu to make sure things aren't screwed.